the Ohio State quarterback battle. Ryan Day, press conference yesterday, gets with the media, and everybody is expecting, after their last scrimmage, for him to announce starting quarterback, because that's kind of what he's done. I mean, even when we know who the starting quarterback is going to be, we knew it was going to be Justin Fields. We knew it was going to be C.J. Stroud. He always waits till around this time. So everyone is fully expecting him to name a starter. He takes the podium, no questions, gets right into it. He says they both graded out as champions in our final scrimmage. Pretty much just says we don't feel the need to make a decision right now. They both deserve to play. So everyone's kind of like, whoa. Before, he seemed a little bit against having two quarterbacks, and now he's like, we got two studs that need to play, we think deserve to play. This thing's going to keep on going. To recap it a little bit, you got two five-star quarterbacks. Two individuals that I promise you a lot of different operations across the country would trade an academic building for, to get one of those guys in their quarterback room. All right, Kyle McCord, Devin Brown, like I said, both five-star quarterbacks. Should be noted, Devin Brown was the number one player for us at On3 during his cycle. Dude is a dog. Kyle McCord also a dog. Wouldn't be a five-star if he wasn't. I appreciate that Ryan Day isn't just naming a guy to name a guy. Right? Like at Ohio State, with how talented that offense is, with how talented that quarterback room is, and with how the schedule shakes out to begin with and what they have leading into the season, like, you don't need to just name someone to name someone. You have the luxury of picking the best player, taking your time, and letting this thing play itself out. Really quickly, make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate you in advance. This is a part of a live show, so if you haven't yet tuned into a live show, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, thank you so much. Roll, party, roll. What I think this says, though, about both Kyle McCord and Devin Brown is fascinating. I want to start with Devin Brown. Going into the season, going into fall camp, Kyle McCord is the more experienced guy, has been around longer, could have gone somewhere else, so I would imagine has endeared himself to that locker room and that staff because he stayed at Ohio State, because he trusted the process and is still there. Also, Devin Brown did not get to play in the spring game. Had a minor injury. Obviously, he's good to go for fall camp, but it would be very difficult from the outside looking in for me to be convinced that Kyle McCord wasn't just a little bit ahead of Devin Brown going into fall camp. And so for Devin Brown to have made this a situation where Ryan Day, who likes to pick a quarterback by this point in the season, hasn't picked a quarterback at this point in the season, what does that tell us about what Devin Brown's been doing behind closed doors in Columbus, Ohio? What does that tell us about what these scrimmages have been like for Devin Brown? The good folks at Letterman Row, our Ohio State On3 site, has been crushing it. A lot of buzz saying basically what we're talking about right now, that Devin Brown has had the more exciting scrimmages, occasional big mistake you don't love, but like for Devin Brown to make this a real full-on quarterback derby going into the season speaks volumes to, I think, the kind of scrimmages he has had. I hope and pray that some of those scrimmage highlights get leaked somehow on Twitter and we get to check those out, because I think he's been balling. So don't think we should look past that. For Kyle McCord, though, I think for him it's all about proving that he has the same it factor that Devin Brown does. Because I think Devin Brown is very clearly making this a tough decision for the staff and for Ryan Day. And I think the concern with not playing Devin Brown is, okay, yes, the occasional big mistake, but do we miss out on what he could mean for the offense? Do we miss out on that explosive passing game potential that we could have with Devin Brown at quarterback? For Kyle McCord, he's making less mistakes, it sounds like, based on reading between the lines here. He was a five-star quarterback coming out of high school. He's got tons of ability. The standard is just so high at Ohio State. Ryan Day has provided the standard for these guys. You be a Heisman finalist if you're the guy at Ohio State, and you probably are a first-round draft pick. That's kind of the official standard within Columbus. Now, if I'm Ryan Day, and we said this a couple of months ago, not knowing this was how it was going to turn out, you look at those first three games, you're at Indiana, you got Youngstown, you got Western Kentucky. Are those three games that you're really sweating too much about losing? I understand that first game, Big Ten conference game, you're on the road, like I understand all that. Why not let them settle it on the field? Why not let them play three games? Whoever has the best of those three games, you're our starting quarterback, because for week 4, we go to Notre Dame. We got it ready to roll. The beautiful thing about competition is it won't lie to you. And I'm not talking about competition in practice. That's one thing, and that's true. But I mean like real deal, bright lights, big city, live bullets. You're not wearing a non-contact jersey. That's not going to lie to you. Competition is the great equalizer, the great differentiator. And we saw it last year, and Ohio State fans, you're going to hate this, but like I kind of like the way Michigan did it. Kind of like the way they did it. And Spencer Holbrook made a great point from Letterman Row. He's like, yes, Michigan had a system that worked last year in terms of deciding who their quarterback was going to be. But there was a lot of internal feel in Ann Arbor that it was going to be J.J. McCarthy one way or another, somehow, some way. I don't think anybody feels a certain way about this. I think it legitimately could be either guy. And so I see no downside to letting them go out and spin it, figure it out in those first 3 games. Because if you lose to any of those teams, no shade on Indiana or any of those other 2, Youngstown and Western Kentucky, like if you lose either of those games, you probably have bigger issues than just the quarterback room. But I would also say this too when we look at this quarterback situation. If you're hesitant about who Ryan Day picks as a starting quarterback, whether it's Kyle McCord, whether it's Devin Brown, whoever he rides with, rest assured in 2 things. One, his track record. I mean, like I said, the standard has already been set of be a Heisman Trophy finalist, be a first-round draft pick. So he knows what it looks like to be a really good quarterback and to be able to be the guy at Ohio State. The other thing I would have confidence in is there is nobody on planet Earth that has more stake in the game right now than Ryan Day. Nobody feeling more pressure on the face of the universe, if that's even a term we can use, than Ryan Day when it comes to this quarterback battle. Because the last 2 times against Michigan, 0 for 2, and he came on this very show and told us, listen, the standard is the standard. Our guys know it. The standard is the standard. Beautiful cliche there. The standard is what it is here at Ohio State. We beat Michigan. He did not say Michigan. He made sure to say the rivalry game. We win the Big Ten. We win national titles. Now, having missed that mark the last 2 years, there's no hot seat pressure, but there's definitely pressure to get it done this coming season. And an enormous part of getting that done is who you have at quarterback, because the defense should be better. Based on how they retooled through the portal, another year in Jim Knowles' system, you feel good about where you're at there. Tons of weapons, like Marvin Harrison Jr. is an absolute freak show, probably going to be a top 3 pick in next year's draft. Emeka Egbuka, the Robin to his Batman, he's probably a first-round caliber wide receiver, you would imagine, if not a high draft pick somewhere else in one of those top rounds. You retooled the offensive line a little bit. You have one of the best backfields in the country. Like, it's all set up for this spaceship of an offense to do some phenomenal things. But who Ryan Day hands the keys to is that secret ingredient, that thing that's going to make the whole thing go. So I promise you, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He understands that, but he's seen what success looks like at Ohio State. And one thing that encouraged me, too, to kind of round out this thought, Ryan Day speaking to the media about what he wants in that quarterback position. Yes, you got to be, a good decision maker. You got to make the throws, all that. Like there's the obvious things that it sounds like all these guys have with the talent and leadership and all that. But he's like, you got to have the it factor. And that's something we've talked about on this show for a minute now. There are some places in college football where it's not good enough just to be the quarterback. It's not good enough just to be QB1. Like, you got to be the guy, man. Ohio State, that brand, that Buckeye sticker, just straight up the words, The Ohio State University. Like, there's a little bit of extra weight that comes with that. So you better be ready to, 1, handle all that, and 2, be able to propel yourself and your teammates in the midst of all that. And Ryan Day talks about on 4th down diving for the pylon and scoring a touchdown, in a big game, like just the it factor, be able to handle that pressure, have that fire inside you. You need that. So I think it's very difficult to determine that during fall camp. And I think that's one of the reasons why this thing is going on. And I would, if it were me, let these guys decide it during the season. Here's one more thing. They're going to let them decide it during the season, is where I've arrived at with this thought. Because at this point in the year, you're through fall camp. You're not worried about fall camp anymore. You're pretty much into game prep at this point in time. You're not learning anything between now and the game against Indiana that you weren't trying to figure out during fall camp. Like, the time for evaluation from fall camp is pretty much over. If you want to evaluate these guys, you got to do it in these games. So that's how I see it shaking out. That's what I think it will end up being. And I'm excited to watch it, man. A very luxurious question mark having 2 5-star quarterbacks to choose from for Ryan Day. and the good folks in Columbus.
Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.